King Solomon was an interesting fellow to me. He was, as you know, one of the wisest of all times. He asked for wisdom and God gave him wisdom. But one of the more intriguing aspects of this man is that he could write it, it seems, so much more wisely than he could live it. He wrote more wisely than he lived at times, certainly. One of the things that he said that was especially interesting and especially relevant to our study tonight is found in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 1. He tells us there that the day of one's death is actually better than the day of one's birth. Maybe that's surprising. We do enjoy birthdays, don't we? Great times of celebrating. But let us recognize that we Christians, whenever we had our very first birthday, our entrance into the world, that was us arriving to this place, right? To planet Earth. The day of our death, don't think of it so much as the day of our departing this place, but rather let us think of our arriving at a place called heaven, a place that is far superior to planet Earth. And so it is the truth that the day of one's death for a Christian is far better than the day of one's birth. John, the apostle, he also knew something about the other side of Jordan, the other side of this life. And he tells us something quite interesting in the book of Revelation. This is Revelation chapter 14, verse 13. He is passing on to us a message that he actually received from the other side, that he actually received from heaven. And this is what he said. He said, "Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord." So he's getting some inside information there from the other side, passing it on. That information is coming from those who are already on the other side, from God, from Jesus, from their Holy Spirit, letting us know, for Christians, the best is absolutely yet to come. King David also follows up this same idea. Psalm 116, verse 15. He tells us, "Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of one of His saints." But what do we often do? We oftentimes feel sorry for the Christian who has died. And maybe that's not the most reasonable response for us to have. For example, do we feel sorry for the laborer who has worked long and hard all day long, and finally it's quitting time and he gets to go home, he gets to enjoy a delicious meal, a warm welcome from those that love him? Do we say we pity that man because now he's getting to go home and rest? No, we're happy for him. We rejoice for him. Let us not feel sorry for Christians who die. It is sensible, understandable that we would feel sorry for those of us who are left behind as those that we love go on to a better place. That certainly makes sense. It also makes sense to feel sorry for one who has died without Christ, for one who has died without hope, as we studied this morning and as we continue to study tonight, this important Bible subject of hope, this original word elpis, this confident conviction, this dynamic belief that is unwavering, that God is alive and that God is actively blessing His people here and will even more effectively and wonderfully bless His people in the hereafter. That's the hope we have tonight. That's the hope that sustains us. That's the hope that makes us have a better understanding of the nature of death. For death, a Christian does not receive annihilation. At death, a Christian does not receive punishment. At death, a Christian does not receive eternal decay, but rather death for a Christian is our gateway into the eternal place, heaven. Think of it as our graduation day where we actually receive this divine diploma. Think of death for a Christian as our coronation day where we receive this amazing crown of life. That's why Paul, when he understood all that about death and living here and leaving this place, that's why he never stressed out about the possibility of leaving this persecuted tent, this tabernacle, this worn-out body, and going on to a place where he would receive a body that would never cry, that would never feel any more pain, that would never experience the sadness of goodbye. Suppose it happens one day where a physician walks into a room where you are and he gives you the news that because of the way some tests have come back, some things they've discovered, that you now have no hope. There's no hope. That's what your physician says. You have no hope. I would suggest that if we Christians have a doctor tell us that we should not buy what he's saying. That physician has no idea, really, what he's talking about, because we have Christ. We have a greater physician. And because we have Christ, because we have the greatest of all physicians, it means we always have hope. And here's what it practically means. It means no matter the diagnosis from a doctor on earth, one way or another, either here or certainly in the hereafter, we're going to get better. We really will. I'm so thankful tonight that our hope, our elpis, our confident expectation that better things are here and better things are coming for us, I'm so thankful that our hope is not determined by the results of a blood test or a biopsy. Or to expand the thought, our hope in this life is not determined by the amount of money we have in an IRA or the grades reflected by our GPA or the number of Facebook friends we might have or our waistline or our hairline or the clothes we wear and the labels on them or the side of the tracks we call home. Our hope is not determined by any of those things. Our hope is never to be built upon things that will eventually become ashes. Our eternal hope can never be determined by non-eternal trivialities. Our eternal hope is determined by one thing, and that is by our relationship with the eternal Son of God, Jesus Christ. Our hope. A fellow by the name of Hal Borland said something I like. He said, "No winter lasts forever. No spring skips its turn." We Christians might say it this way: no Friday lasts forever. No Sunday skips its turn. We're thinking there, of course, about the worst Friday of all, the Friday that Jesus was crucified. Horrible day. Thankfully, there was a Saturday, and then after Saturday there was a Sunday, and on Sunday Jesus rose from the grave. Everything got a whole lot better because not only did He come up and out, our hope came up and out. Our hope survived the crucifixion. Let's never let the events of a bad day, a Friday, a Thursday, a Monday, or whatever that bad day, a series of bad days, or weeks, or months, even a series of bad years, let us never let bad events, circumstances destroy our everlasting hope. Let us know that every Friday storm will ultimately pass, and Sunday, with its rainbow, with its hope, eventually will come to all. Are you familiar with the song Whispering Hope? We sing that from time to time. Don't sing it here a whole lot, but I grew up singing the song Whispering Hope. And I like the song, but I'm not sure that it accurately portrays the hope that we actually have. Because it seems to me that our hope, our elpis, our confident expectation, our dynamic conviction that God lives and lives through us and blesses us here and even more in the hereafter. Our hope, it seems, is anything but a whisper, right? Isn't it more like thunder? A dynamic shout, if you will. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 12 says that because of hope, we have boldness of speech. Boldness of speech. It's a thundering message that Jesus lives. That death has been defeated for us. Death has no sting. That's a message that needs to resonate from us. Not just from this place tonight, but from each of us as we live our lives. We go out with this message of hope. We're ambassadors of the good news that Jesus lives. Do you remember 4 New Testament descriptions of our subject of the morning and the night, the word hope? 4 grand descriptions of this word. Hope is called good in 2 Thessalonians 2:16. Hope is referred to as blessed in Titus 2:13. It's referred to as better in Hebrews 7:19. And of course, as we began our study in the morning service, 1 Peter 1 verse 3, our hope is called living. Living hope. That means that our hope is not on life support. It's something that's alive, it's vibrant. One translation uses the word for hope there, immortal. And understand the significance of this now. This alive hope that we have, it keeps us alive forever. Did you know this? The average person can live for 40 days without food. We really can. The average person can live about 3 days without any water. We really can. The average person can live about 8 minutes without any air. We really can. But we cannot live one meaningful moment without hope, without this confident expectation that Jesus lives and we can live with Him forever. So let's live with that hope. Let's live with that expectation. Let's have the kind of living hope that is infectious, that is contagious to all those within our circles of love and influence. Maybe even to the point where they can catch it from us, where others will bloom in our warmth and maybe just choose for their own selves to be hopeful over hopeless. You remember from this morning's lesson why it is so important that we have hope and that we help others catch the hope that we have. First of all, because when we Christians have hope, it takes us from lost to found. Hope saves us. When we Christians have hope, it takes us from being dirty to clean. It purifies us. When we Christians have hope, it takes us from being drifting to anchored. We're anchored. When we Christians have hope, it takes us from being gloomy to giddy with good reason. We rejoice. When we Christians have hope, it means that we will not have a death that stings, but rather we'll have a stingless death. Without hope, life stings. Death stings. And eternity without hope really is going to sting. And as Paul would put it, we are of all men most miserable. So we choose hope. We choose Christ. We choose the stingless alternative. Imagine for just a moment you got to go to the dentist and you got to get a root canal, and the dentist walks in all dressed up, ready to do the procedure, and you're in the chair, and the dentist gives you an option, says that we can do this in a way that stings really badly, or we can do this in a way that is really, really pleasant. You hear the choices? I can do this procedure, but it can hurt you, or it can actually be a rather enjoyable thing. Anybody here even remotely tempted to say, all right, dentist, I'm feeling pretty tough today. Give me the pain. Give me something that is going to make me miserable. I'd rather have agony over pleasant, over joyful, any day. No one would make that choice. And now, God in His Word has laid out a choice for us, hasn't He? When we think about eternity, we can have one that is stingless, that is wonderful, that is pleasant. Or we can have one that was designed for a deserving devil, a place of outer darkness, a place of weeping and gnashing of teeth, a place of eternal fire. Who in their right mind would ever say, give me the fire over heaven? Nobody would make that kind of decision, not in 1,000 years times 1,000 years. We choose hope. We choose hope. Tonight, whenever you get home, I'd like for you to Google something, those of you that are internet savvy. Google this. This is USS S-4. USS S-4. And when you do that, you'll learn about the crew on that sub that I talked about this morning. I hadn't forgotten that illustration. I left it hanging, unfinished this morning. The crew of the sub, the ones that were hit off the coast of Massachusetts back in December of 1927, sank to the bottom of the ocean there, and they're sending out this Morse code message, is there any hope? Again, that's our question we tried to answer this morning and tonight. Is there any hope? Rescue diver heard that repeatedly. The rescuers couldn't get to those men in that sub. You Google that, you'll see their very tragic story. Eventually, their supply of oxygen ran out, and all of the crew perished. They died. Is there any hope for those men? The answer was no. Is there any hope for us? Thankfully, the answer is yes. It is a resounding yes. And our privilege tonight and every day of our lives is to grasp the hope, to inhale it as best we can. You know what this means? Doom, Spyro, Sparrow. Doom, Spyro, Sparrow. Don't feel bad, I didn't know what it meant either till I was doing some research for this lesson. Doom, Spyro, Sparrow. That's a Latin phrase. And you'll like this phrase because it means, while I breathe, I hope. While I breathe, I hope. And we all have this in common tonight, we that are here. We have our breath, don't we? And because we have our breath, we can have our hope. So what does all that mean again? So now what? Practically, here, 2013. It means this. Because we have hope that's bigger and better than anything that we could muster of our own selves. A hope that comes to us as a gift from God. Because we have that dynamic conviction that Jesus lives and we can live in Him and through Him. It means this. If we are about to abandon our marriage, don't. If you're about to jump off a bridge, don't. If you're about to abuse your body with some kind of drugs, don't. If you're about to throw away some money or maybe your life at one of these casinos, don't. If you're about to give up on your children, don't. If you're about to go out and misbehave on a date, don't. If you're about to abandon your pew or abandon your post in the Lord's vineyard or abandon your Lord and His family, don't. If you're tempted to leave this place without Jesus, without hope, don't. Don't do that. do confess Christ. Do put Him on in baptism for the remission of all sins in obedience to Acts 2:38. Do tonight, perhaps as Brother Rick Little did this morning, and come and confess sins and seek fervent prayers of your family that loves you. Let us choose to live with hope. Would you pray with me, please? Father, thank you for giving us the privilege to gather here tonight as your